truth. Those people became highly evolved because they self-realized. It is not the other way around. So self-realization, knowing your real nature, is the cure of all the miseries in life. How a God's worship has anything to do with what I am experiencing in life? Yes, Hinduism is a science. I have actually written a book on Hinduism, the science of self-realization. Mental suffering as a form of spiritual disease and offer a path to healing. And the supplementary question is there a spiritual science in Hinduism that explains how to diagnose and fix our inner turmoil? Obviously, answer is yes. That is the very question spiritual knowledge contained within Hinduism is offering, is to take people out of their miserable existence. Okay. And is there a science? Yes, Hinduism is a science. I have actually written a book on Hinduism, the science of self-realization. And this title by itself explains what is the disease. Disease is non-comprehension. So that we do not comprehend our real nature, our real personality. Non-comprehension is caused. Non-comprehension is, or miscomprehension, I should say, not non-comprehension. Misapprehension is caused because of non-comprehension. Because our senses and our mind is not capable of apprehending my real nature, as a result of which miscomprehension is called. And what is the miscomprehension? Miscomprehension is that the Sharir Manabuddhi is my real personality. And so long as I live a life with this ignorance, suffering and having mental or inner turmoil is part and parcel of material existence. Hinduism, as a science, does it offer solution? Having said that, Hinduism actually offers the solution to the very problem. And that is what Hinduism is talking about. Hinduism and all its literature contained is a science to help people realize their real personality and thereby liberate themselves from all the miserable life that they are currently experiencing. Okay, just to tell you whether Hinduism is a science or not. Well, even if you is somebody who reads Gita, at the end of every chapter, Gita is reminding us that Hindu literature or Vedic literature is not only a science, it's not only a philosophy, not only a science, but it also is a technology to liberate ourselves from our miserable life. So let me read out to you. When you open Gita, at the end of each chapter, this verse is repeated. The only difference is the name of the chapter which is just concluded. So I am going to read for you this verse at the end of chapter 1. So it reads, Om Tat Sat Iti Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyanam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Pratamo Adhyaya. Okay. So what it is saying is, it is the philosophy of life. Brahma Vidyanam. So Vedic literature is giving us the knowledge of Brahma. Brahma is the name or the noun assigned to my real personality, which is non-apprehensible to my sense organ. So it's an entity which I cannot access through my faculties of knowledge, which is my sense organs. So it is the vidya of that personality. And it is a yoga shastra. So it's not only just the philosophy and the knowledge that it tells you, it also gives you the techniques, the yoga. Yoga Shastra. Yoga Shastra means the technology and the techniques. How do we apprehend which is beyond the purview of my senses and my mind? So that's what, whether it offers me solutions or diagnose and fix my problem, yes, it does. The very cause, or let me put it very simply for you to understand, it is said in the Vedic literature that mind is the cause and the cure for all the problems that you and I experience in our life. So the problem that we experience is caused by an untrained mind. And the cure for the same problems that you and I experience is removed and cured by the same mind when it is disciplined and trained. So that technology or that technique is provided within our literature, and all we'll have to do is follow those prescriptions as to how do we control our mind, how do we train our mind, and then how do we use it to liberate ourselves from our miserable life. And that exactly what spiritual study or spiritual knowledge is all about. Our problem is that we take the view of ritualistic performances around us, within our families, within our society, which unfortunately are followed in the main mindlessly. Most people, even if you ask them anything, they will have their own personal explanation to what they think, what they're doing. But very rarely you will find somebody who can explain the logic and science within that ritual that they perform, which comes from the Vedic literature or Upanishad or Gita. You, you know, and because they cannot explain it, young mind, when they are inquisitive and they want to know how a God's worship has anything to do with what I am experiencing in life. If you can't explain it to them, what hope do we have that they will be interested or keen to pursue religious or spiritual practices? Because we are not giving them logical or scientific explanation to what we do. Because we have never bothered to ask these questions, so we are totally unaware of it, and we follow these practices purely because it is a tradition, or I'm born into a family which follow these traditions, hence I follow this tradition myself. But why do I do what I do? That is a question seldom asked. And even if you ask this question, or even if a young person can ask this question, there's nobody to provide any logical and scientific explanation to these questions, which are rooted or underpinned or verified by Vedic literature. So, giving explanation, anybody can give any explanation. So, when you ask people very simple question as why do you celebrate Diwali? Everybody, let's say if you ask 10 people, you will get 10 explanations. But how can celebration of Diwali have 10 explanations? But we don't know because we never bothered to ask this question. We just celebrate Diwali as a tradition, as a festival that falls every year, and we just go through the protocol without any involvement of mind in it. We don't know what this festival, the significance of the festival is. We just do it. So for that reason, obviously a lot of young people are left bewildered and wondering whether there's any sense in following these religious practices or not. So what they follow, that is what they can understand, where they find logic and some justification, which is making money. So everybody is investing 99% of their time into how to make money in their life. and they continue to live a materialistic life. And materialistic life, unfortunately, is riddled with all the pains and sufferings and confusion, anxieties, and stress. And then everybody is seeking the solution, and there's hardly anybody to guide them in the right direction. So spirituality is the science of self-realization. How do you know? So the fundamental diagnosis, there's only one diagnosis for all the problems that we experience. And the diagnosis is non-comprehension of my real nature, my real personality. And the treatment is apprehension of real personality. And this apprehension of my real nature, knowing who I really am under these layers of body, mind, and intellect. So once I know, or once I begin to know what my real nature is, and all it requires you is to transit away from your identification with your material dimension of life, which is Sharir Mana Buddhi, believing that you are Sharir Mana Buddhi. And you transit away and transit towards your real personality, which is known as Brahma or the Self, Supreme Self. And the moment you begin to identify with your real nature, you will find the germs or the bacteria or the viruses of this disease we call life will lose their potency, and they would stop affecting any stress, anxiety, or pain or suffering upon you. Because when you realize, when you know who you really are, your vision changes. And all those situations which used to be a problem situations for you will lose their potency to inflict any pain upon you. So from that perspective, answer is yes. Has Hinduism or can Hinduism offer techniques to get rid of all my worries and anxieties and problems that I experience in life? So answer is yes, it can do it. But if just by reading a book, you cannot have self-realization. And without self-realization, your liberation from the miserable life is not possible. So just reading a Gita or reading a chapter or two, don't hope and expect that you will do it. So solution, though there is a solution has always been available from, last thousands of years. But we have drifted away from it as the society grew and developed. Unfortunately, we have been, systematically driven away from the language that these scriptures are written in and the scriptures themselves. So we don't know what these scriptures contain and what they are designed for. So idea is to commit oneself and begin this journey of self-realization. And self-realization is not earmarked or allocated only to highly evolved souls or saints and sages. No, that is not true. Those people became highly evolved because they self-realized. It is not the other way around. So self-realization, knowing your real nature, is the cure of all the miseries in life. And to do that, it is everybody's, it's possible for everybody to realize your real nature. All you need to know or all you need to have is this unflinching determination to follow this path. And most of the activities in this path are mental activities. So all it requires is to work towards controlling your mind, training your mind, and taming your mind. If you are able to do it, the techniques are made available in the scriptures. If you do it, you can continue to live your material life, but without all these negative affectivities that the question posed. Can I have a life without stress, anxiety, fear, and confusion? Answer is yes. All you need to do is become the master of your mind. That is the solution. I hope you liked what you heard. So I'll see you in my next video. Until such time, look after yourself and Hari Om.